Hello everyone, welcome back to another Friday and another casual champion review with Ambessa Medarda for real this time, not at Riot headquarters. And this should be very interesting because unlike champions like Smolder, where I didn't even know that you could stack off minions until like halfway through the game, or Briar, I didn't know you could reactivate W. At least this time I'd hope I know a bit more about Ambessa so it won't be too much trouble learning her in the first place. You know what I'll never have trouble with though? Fan art section, I'm kind of bewildered. I mean, with Smolder and Aurora, we knew about the champion coming out a good while in advance. I knew Ambessa was coming out, and I couldn't tell you guys. So I felt so good. Like, hey, guys, so, you know, new champions go down, so we got to switch to Ambessa. Even though it's Neferi, you got 2 days if you want to do the fan art section stuff. If you want to do the fan art section stuff, they do it for free. They just do it for fun. I feel so bad about it. It's like, they're really good. They're really good. Pushing the meme that apparently somehow I match Ambessa's type, which is not true. You guys have seen me on camera. You know I am not that body type. Whatever. Thank you, fellas, for the speedy and diligent work. It is amazing as always. Thank you so much. Man, her walk cycle really does look like Shyvana, doesn't it? I mean, they're going to rework Shyvana pretty soon anyway, so I don't think it was intentional. We're going to talk about Shyvana a bit later anyway for other reasons. You might also notice we're playing Ambessa in the jungle today. And someone made a joke in the previous casual review from Morgana. It's like, oh, casual reviews just turning into playing every champion in the jungle. And it's, okay, well, fair. If a champion can jungle, there's probably a good chance I'm going to play them in the jungle for these videos. Like, I'm trying to commentate, right? I'm trying to commentate, tell the lore, express my opinions on the character design and whatnot. It is very difficult to do that consistently while trying to last hit minions and have trades with my lane opponent. With jungle, it's just so much more relaxing. I don't have to worry, unless I get invaded, I don't have to worry about that kind of stuff. I can just farm, press my abilities when I need to, and just commentate way more easily. But now we can get into Ambessa Medarda, which I've already played a decent amount at my Riot headquarters visit, which I did make that video. Very happy that it's actually doing quite well. I'm glad you guys enjoyed the more vlog style. It was kind of like a weird hybrid. It was like vlogging plus reactions plus informational stuff, talking about our abilities. I don't know. Hopefully, if you guys liked it, I would love if I got to do something like that again. It was very neat to get a first-hand look at stuff, and I did get to talk directly to Ambessa's lead designer, which I'll talk about that as well in this video, I think. Ambessa's also a bit of a weird character to talk about lore-wise, because much like with Smolder, and I believe same thing happened with Aurora, she doesn't have a bio out yet, so we don't have the full picture of what her story is. But the weird thing about Ambessa is that we don't really need one, because we've seen Ambessa in Arcane and we have a bit of her backstory already to understand where she's coming from. So we already know that Ambessa Medarda is the mother to Mel Medarda. I believe she shows up in season 1 episode 8, so right at the tail end of the season. But it's also weird that Ambessa has a lot of voice lines referring to Mel in the past tense, which I don't know if that's specifically because I think I actually maybe I keep forgetting to do the dash. I may have played Ambessa before. It doesn't mean I'm good at her yet. What I was trying to say is Ambessa seems to have a lot of voice lines referring to Mel in the past tense. And after looking at it on my stream, or my first ever YouTube Twitch multi-stream, that seemed to go pretty well. Maybe I continue doing more of that. But someone in the chat pointed out that Mel has not shown up in any of the trailers yet. It kind of got me thinking, oh, is Mel actually dead? Did she die in episode 9? Like, is that how we're going to start off? That's why Ambessa is such a key character, because Mel's dead. Though I don't really think that they have the balls to do that. Mel was way too much of a pivotal character to kill off before the season even started. I mean, I'd respect that. Like, that takes some guts. I don't think they do it, though. And we also discovered that pretty much all the other council members, save for a single still shot of Victor, and I think one of Jace as well, all the other council members are not been shown in the new season trailer stuff. So I think that's just kind of trying to leave the mystery, like, oh, who actually survived? I don't think they're going to kill Mel off, guys. Like, come on. It would give reason for Ambessa to be such a major character, but I'll get into why I actually think Ambessa is going to be such a major character. So by piecing together the lore that we have currently from Arcane and the backstory that she actually does tell us, we know that Ambessa was kind of raised on violence. Her father wanted to expose her to the brutality, gore, and death of war so she'd become numb to it, and would take her to the aftermath of battlefields and have her go and collect as many weapons as she could in exchange for gold coin. Very weird form of allowance. And so with those lessons instilled to her, she decided to try and instill them into her children, and to not much avail. Both her son, Kino, and her daughter, Mel, were not exactly on the same page as she was, both of them going a bit more into diplomacy. But Mel especially especially was a struggle for her because Kino, he did have a bit more of that Noxian-ness to him. He would let people die, but Mel wasn't really about that. We saw in the flashback as well that Mel was not overly fond of killing people. And so this lack of ruthlessness that she had would eventually drive Ambessa to banish Mel to Piltover. She loves her daughter, she loves her family, but seeing that disapproval in her eyes, basically having Mel as a conscience to question Ambessa's decision, she couldn't live with that. I gotcha, stupid. Oh, he still had... Okay, anyway, so because of that sentimentality that Mel had, Ambessa thought she'd be far more useful in Piltover. That way she could no longer have to deal with Mel's questioning of her decisions, but it would also allow her to have an influence over the people of Piltover because Mel is very diplomatic. And by doing so, it would also allow him... My blue buff! And by doing so, it also allow Ambessa to essentially have a piece in the Piltovan economy so that if they ever make anything that's going to be useful to her in the future, she has direct access and first access to it. And we see later in the show that Kino got killed off by some unknown man, though we still do not know who he was. Apparently because he betrayed him, or backstabbed him, or offended him. We don't really know what at this point, but regardless, he was killed by this man, and the man still holds a grudge for whatever he did, and is looking to target the Medarda family. A lot of people have theorized that this mystery man is Swain, and that would kind of make sense. Swain does tend to hold grudges a lot, and he's trying to weed out the people he deems not worthy or are a traitor to the Noxian Nation as a whole. And I don't think we know if Ambessa is Black Rose yet. It would kind of make sense with her voice lines how she seems to not like Swain too much, but does seem to have a fondness for Samira. I don't know though. I feel Ambessa is... I feel like Ambessa is just so engrossed in traditional Noxian values. I can't see her not being like an ex-member of the Trifarian Legion or something. But we see in Arcane, she does eventually arrive in Piltover at the very end of the season in hopes of meeting Mel, but more importantly in hopes of taking Mel, taking Jace, and egging them on into inciting this war between Piltover and Zon, in hopes that it will encourage them to develop Hextech weapons. I cannot believe that hit. That didn't seem correct, I'm being honest. Yeah, I'm doing it now. Now I know what now I do it. Never call her that again. Ambessa believes that Hextech is not just the future of weapons, but that by having them be invented by someone so close to her family, it ensures that they have them first and they get to use them against their adversaries. So as a method to protect her family. She cares very deeply about her family, but more specifically, and this was pointed out to me while we were at Riot, that she cares the most about her family's legacy, which I find very interesting. So I think probably if worse came to worse and she had to sacrifice her daughter so that she could live to continue the Medarda legacy, I think she would do that, even if she does, you know, love her daughter very much. We're not really sure where she's going to go from here, but the fact that she was introduced so late into the game and the fact that they promote her so much, she's becoming an actual champion, I think it's pretty clear that Ambessa is going to have a pretty significant role in Season 2, and I think she's going to be the main villain. That's primarily because I think Riot doesn't want to make the same mistake they did with Silco, where Silco was far and away the most popular champion, I should say non-champion from Arcane Season 1, and so they want to capitalize on that for Season 2, make Ambessa fully playable in everything in Wild Rift, LOR, League of Legends, all that stuff. And also because she's probably going to have such a prominent role in Season 2 is why she was the one chosen as the champion and not someone like Sevica, which is who I would have wanted. She was my favorite non-playable character. I can't see Ambessa having as big of a role as she had in Season 1 when they made her a full champion. I feel like the fact that they're pushing her so much means, oh, her role is going to be huge. They want to capitalize on that as much as possible. And to me, the parallels with Silco just ran. Oh my... Leave me alone. I'm going to make a point about Ambessa's hitboxes, how they're kind of slim and difficult to hit in some instances with sweet spots, but so far the ult hitbox has been very strange this game. So now we can get onto her design, which is weird to talk about her design because we've known how she looks for 2 years now. And again, well, Sevica was my most wanted champion or most wanted character from Arcane to become a real champion, not Ambessa. I think it is very important to show the reason why Ambessa was chosen. I don't know if it's exactly why, but I think Ambessa being in here is very important because she represents so many things that are either lacking in League of Legends or haven't been in League of Legends for a very long time. For starters, the most obvious one I think is that she is very visibly buff. She's not quite to the same level as Alawi, which is funny because in my Alawi casual champion review, I made mention of how Alawi is currently the only actually visibly buff woman in the game, despite the fact that champions like Vi and Sejuani Nani probably should have some visible muscle definition, and that there should be more in the game for the characters that fit it. And then Ambessa got announced to be a champion like the next couple days later. I don't know if I beat her. I am... Okay, I definitely... Oh, I flubbed it all. Oh, what? See, what is that? Oh! And just like the bird, it flew as far as it swam. It was very weird hearing all that criticism, though. Not for me specifically, but when people would pitch the idea, especially of buff Shyvana, for example, the idea of like, well, we already have a big muscly woman in the game, so why would we need a second one? And I'm just thinking like, man, but how many super buff dudes do we have? How many pretty boys do we have now? We got, what, Hui, Ezreal, Aphelios. We got a lot of pretty boys in the game now. But I don't think anyone would say that Aphelios and Hui share the same body type. That is not Alawi is significantly more buff than that. It's like comparing Braum to Darius. It's just not the same. There's also her mask, though. The mask, dude. Why isn't it there? Like, in Wild Rift, she has it. In the trailer, she has it. I can only think, are they trying to do that to differentiate the Wild Rift version from the League of Legends version? Well, that seems a very weird marketing strategy. Like, come play Wild Rift. We have Ambessa with a mask here. Ignore that. Another important thing about Ambessa is that she is visibly older with visible scars, which is a thing that Riot has strayed away from forever. In every opportunity they have to make a character older, especially the women older. Like, look at Camille, perfect example. She's like in her 80s, but she looks like a 30-year-old with white hair. So it's nice to see a woman in her 60s that actually has the wrinkles, she has the gray hair. I don't think they did as good of a job representing it on the model here, but they did at least try to keep Ambessa's scars that she has, which again is the thing that Riot tends to stray away from unless it's for the sake of a trope. Like, you know, with Yasuo's little thing over his face, or at least Pantheon, he has a scar there for his storytelling, but usually scars and battle damage, they tend to stray away from it, especially for the women. So it's just really nice to see that she has them. It's great visual storytelling to show that she is a really old character who's seen a lot of battles and survived them, more importantly. And of course, Ambessa is the first actual mother to be in the game. We've gotten quite a few dads at this point, but Ambessa is the first actual mom. If you want to get technical, you could kinda count Rek'Sai, but she's more of a brood mother. She doesn't really care for her children. They're just offspring. They're just a hive. They're just minions. Ambessa's the first actual mom in the game, I'd say. Oh, and I almost forgot. The fact that Ambessa is our first traditional Noxian character in the game. Like, Noxian in ages. Like, we've had Samira and Rel and Briar, which all have elements of Noxian, but they're all trying to do their own little offshoot. Oh! Briar's trying to do her little Crimson Cult thing. Rel is completely defected from Noxus. Samira takes more off their Shuriman. It's like a nice blend of Shuriman and Noxus stuff. And that's not a problem for them. Don't get me wrong. I'm just saying the last Noxian, like Noxian champion we got was maybe Kled, and even he's kind of stretching it. I think double funny about that is because if you guys ever seen any of the videos where I talk about characters from Legend of Runeterra I'd like to see become actual champions in the league someday, I've mentioned Captain Farron multiple times. He's not a very well fleshed out character, he's just a big Noxian general guy. But that's exactly why I want him in the game. I want Riot to make a new traditional Noxian champion, big and strong with armor and cool ass unique chain weapons. That's mainly why I want him in there. And then Ambessa kind of is all those things. And I guess probably the last important thing that we know about Ambessa is that we now know through her voice lines she is canonically bi. She has a lot of voice lines hidden away in her code, presumably because there's spoilers for Arcane. It's probably why her only Arcane champion interaction she has is Jace. But as far as her like, oh, you're just my type. But what's Ambessa's type? Well, we get Ezreal, Aphelios, Hui, we get all the pretty boys. But then we also get Illaoi and Shyvana, which makes me think, what the hell do Illaoi and Shyvana have in common? And I'm just thinking, oh my god, they're gonna do it. They're gonna make buff Shyvana. It's actually happening. I couldn't be more. That was probably the thing that made me the most happy about those voice lines, actually. But it does mean that Ambessa, her type is the pretty boys and the very buff women. Wait, okay. I think the only hiccups I have with her design is the same kind of things that everybody's been talking about, where her mask is. The thing is, I don't want her to have a mask on all the time because that would cover up her face. That was actually a big worry of mine, that we get an older woman in the game finally, but then they just cover up her face the whole time. So I don't want her to have the mask on permanently, like it seems to be doing in Wild Rift. In the gameplay, she seems to have the mask on permanently. Oh, I did it. Oh, I think the obvious solution is just to make it a toggle. Like, if you want to wear the mask, then keep it on. If you don't want to have it, then keep it off. Just do it like Kai'Sa, like Aatrox banner wings. Just something like that, please. I think the other obvious criticism that a lot of people have had that I think has been made most widely known has been the fur on her armor, which I agree. I don't really think it should be green either. It's weird because in the original design that she had in Arcane, it was black. It was also kind of this half cape, which she's sort of kept in the current design that we have for her Champion League. But I think it's just because of color contrast. I assume that's why, you know, green and red complementary colors, but I think maybe it should have been like a brown or keep it black. I know that makes her color scheme kind of bland, but you know, you get that good contrast with her gray hair, so I don't know. Seems like a weird choice. I'm not really sure they did it. I think it could be changed, though it might be a bit too late to change it. It's just that it sticks out so much, dude. Like, it's so un-Noxian of a color. It doesn't look correct on her. I guess before we go to gameplay, usually I talk about skins when I have time to at the end of these casual reviews, though this time, not really going to be much of that because Ambessa doesn't have a skin. I think she might be the first champion ever to release without one. And in fact, there's no skins this patch at all. I assume that there's no arcane skins this patch because they're spoilers. I assume it's going to be that battle skin that she had while in the trailer. But now that we can get on to that, we can talk about her gameplay a little bit, which has been far and away, I think, the most controversial part of Ambessa so far. And it's the one thing that worries me the most. I do want to mention, though, that while I was at Riot, I did get to talk with Riot Yellow, who is the lead champion designer on Ambessa, and he was just a really chill guy, so I feel really bad that he's getting all this flack for Ambessa. He's worked so long on this character and all the stuff with the Riot layouts. Like, morale is not the best over at Riot HQ right now, to no fault of the Rioters themselves. I just feel really bad for him. I can't not express the things that I don't like Ambessa, but I think it's probably important to say the things that I do think work first. I do think it is incredibly interesting for a champion who's not Ionian. The Kinku guys and Lee Sin are the champions who use energy. Ambessa is currently the only non-Ionian to use energy, which that is poetic that it would be a Noxian that does that. Noxus is very famous for taking other people's things and using it as their own. But from what I understand, Ambessa's whole use of energy gotcha. Ambessa's whole use of energy is purely for balance reasons. Because if you made her a mana champion, or God forbid, a manaless character, I think are we winning? That's some bullshit. I flashed that. I think the thing that Ambessa nailed the most, actually, is the fact that it is very thematically appropriate. And I don't mean she has just Darius's Q, right? Kind of side to Darius's Q of the sweet spot in the outer ring. But Lilia has that too, so it's not exactly a unique thing. But the whole thing about her gameplay being hyper aggression. The reason she has energy is because if she had mana, she could just jump wherever she wanted off cooldown. She'd be way too mobile. I think she already is probably a bit too mobile, but by having her use energy instead, she's now a lot more limited in how much she can dash. If she can't catch up to her victim in time, or she's trying to run away, she's gonna run out of resources in no time flat. Kale, I did not want an example. Oh, that's not even Kale. That's Vigo. Wait, wait, I'm awesome, actually. What 20 minutes 1v1ing a Finnish person in ARAM will do. So I think that aspect's very interesting. I think I share the sentiment with everyone else that what the hell? It's kind of ridiculous for a champion to have a dash on every single ability. It feels almost like a parody response to mobility creep. It's like, well, we can't top it now. Every single ability has a dash, sometimes two dashes. And you have to put in the perspective. You're fighting against like a Fiora or any of these other more hyper mobile champions in the game. It's not going to be quite as insufferable. But if you're trying to play Kog'Maw, good luck, man. So I do like, again, that she is very aggressive. That is very traditionally Noxian to be that way. If you're not in a fight, if you're not currently fighting, you're at a disadvantage with Ambessa. Speaking of Ambessa, that's the character. Oh, that ult's so weird, man. Thank God she doesn't have any crowd control, at least, right? But besides her ult. And she does have all these sweet spots that she has to hit first. I win this. You get to at least have that little bit of a tactical side to her, right? She's not just a mindless brute. She actually does have to think at least a little bit. You have to know which way you're dashing and hit the sweet spots, and a few of her abilities have a lot smaller hitboxes, despite their length being so long. It's hard to argue. I'm trying to defend it a bit here, because, again, I feel a bit bad for Riot Yellow, I guess. Yeah, I can tell this character, once people figure her out, it's gonna be like a Kali or Cassante. Probably a better example. People didn't really know how good he actually was. They gave it some time and suddenly, oh god, he is a menace. Which is my big worry that's gonna happen for Ambessa. She's already been nerfed on the PvE. I think that's primarily just because they gave her way too many stuff. It's the common thing they do with modern champions, right? Like, look at Akshan. It's got like 50 million billion passives. And then for some reason, like, yeah, okay, 30% armor pen and 30% healing for free. Why not? She's a melee bruiser. Most of these melee bruisers have healing of some variety. But do you really need to give a bruiser 30% armor pen for free? I don't think that's really necessary. It's just one of those things of just putting too many random extra things on a champion who doesn't need it. About Ambessa's release, because I think it is such a cool thing she exists as a champion at all. The fact that we get a character from Arcane, a character we've known about how they look, how they talk, how they act, not like Yone or Kai'Sa, where it was just kind of off in the distance. We knew about Ambessa, and seeing her in the game actualized opens the floodgates. We get characters from Mage Seeker and other shows they make, growing interest in the lore of League of Legends and trying to port it over to the actual game is just awesome, and I want to see way more characters like it, and I am so worried that her gameplay is gonna be like Cassante, where it just taints everybody's perspective of the character and nobody likes her. Oh! Yay. I do like that Ambessa's here. I just don't want people to have a foul taste in their mouth because her gameplay is so insane. Oh, wow. That was really well timed. Okay, thank you for watching this week's Casual Champion Review, everybody, about Ambessa Medarda. I will see you next week for Nafiri, hopefully. All right. And goodbye.